It was a perfect moment. Balloons swaying in the corner, cake candles still warm, my daughter's laughter bubbling through the room. Then she opened the box. A pink dress, frilly, delicate, like spun sugar. She smiled at first, running her fingers over the fabric. But then her hands stilled. She turned it inside out, confusion clouding her eyes. "Mommy, what is this?" She pointed to the small stitched patch near the hem, faded but still visible. My stomach knotted. It was a monogram, 3 letters. My name, not hers, mine. And suddenly I was 7 again, standing in front of my parents wearing that same dress, the one they had forced on me for every special family occasion. Back then, I didn't understand why it was always pink, why it was always that dress. But I learned. It was their way of branding me, of reminding me I was theirs to display, to control, to humiliate when I stepped out of line. I thought I'd escaped that house for good. I thought I'd buried the girl who wore that dress. But here it was, on my daughter's birthday. I didn't cry. I folded the dress back into the box, and I started planning. I hadn't spoken to my parents in 3 years, not since I left my father's business and exposed his creative accounting to the authorities. Not since my mother told me, in the coldest voice imaginable, that I'd ruined the family. They'd tried to reel me back in, letters, money, veiled threats, but they'd never dared approach my daughter. Until now. The dress wasn't a gift. It was a warning, a reminder that they could still reach me. That night, after my daughter fell asleep, I poured myself a glass of wine and spread the dress out on the table. Every stitch was perfectly intact. I traced the monogram with my fingertip, feeling the heat rise in my chest. They thought they could intimidate me. They forgot who they'd raised. The next morning, before their calls started, I went to my office. I pulled out the file I'd been building for years. Photographs, bank records, property deeds. My father had always been meticulous, but arrogance makes people sloppy. He'd funneled money through shell companies, hidden assets overseas, and used my mother's charity as a laundering front. I had proof of it all. I'd been saving it, telling myself I'd only use it if they came after me again. Now, the box on my kitchen table told me it was time. I didn't confront them. I didn't answer their calls. I simply made copies, 3 sets, one to the tax authorities, one to a journalist I trusted, and one to their lawyer. By noon, my phone was vibrating nonstop. When I finally picked up, it was my mother. Her voice trembled, not with fear, but with fury. "How could you? Do you have any idea what you've done?" I kept my tone even. "Do you have any idea what you've done? You tried to put my daughter in that dress." Silence. Then, cold as ever, "It was just a gift." No, it was possession, just like it was with me. You wanted to remind me who I belong to. But you forgot something. I don't belong to you anymore. And neither does she. I hung up. By evening, the first article was live. Headlines screamed about financial fraud, embezzlement, tax evasion. Photos of my father shaking hands with politicians. Quotes from anonymous sources about years of intimidation. Their empire began to crumble in hours. I watched the news while eating dinner with my daughter, the dress still boxed on the counter. My phone buzzed every few minutes. Unknown numbers, blocked calls. I ignored them all. That night, I slid the box into the fireplace. The flames licked up the pink fabric, curling the monogram into ash. 2 days later, I drove past their estate. Reporters crowded at the gates. Police cars lined the driveway. My father's precious imported fountain stood dry and cracked, its marble stained by rain. I parked down the road, out of sight, and let myself feel it. Not joy, not triumph, just the quiet satisfaction of knowing they could never touch us again. They'd built their lives on control, on taking and branding and bending people until they broke. But I hadn't broken, and now they were the ones on display. Their names dragged through headlines, their legacy reduced to scandal. The last time my mother called, she didn't sound angry. She sounded tired. "You could have just stayed away," she said. I almost laughed. I did, for 3 years. But you didn't. A long pause. Then she whispered, "That dress wasn't meant for her. It was meant for you. To remember where you came from." I let the silence stretch before I answered. I do remember. That's why I made sure my daughter never will. And I ended the call. Sometimes when I see my daughter twirling in her room, wearing whatever bright, mismatched clothes she's chosen that day, I think about the little girl I was, the one who wore pink because she was told to, who smiled for photographs while her hands itched to tear the fabric off.